The ACT here in Canberra will soon begin phasing out single-use plastic, starting with an immediate ban of plastic cutlery, as well as polystyrene takeaway food and beverage containers. The government has flagged the legislation early, with business given a further 12 months before the next wave of bans. Well, joining me to discuss this is Chris Steele, the ACT's Recycling and Waste Reduction Minister. Thanks very much for your time.
No worries.
I noticed you've brought some props. I want to start with the existing ban because the single-use plastic bag one came in. Has that been a success?
It has been. We've seen over 4,000 tonnes of plastic bags reduced as a result of the shopping bag ban that came in 2011. Most other states and territories have also banned plastic bags, and now we're looking to the next steps about other single-use plastics.
So when that's measured, people obviously don't keep the thicker bags forever. How many times do you need to reuse one to say it's now of environmental benefit?
They need to be reused a number of times, perhaps 20 or 30 times before they're better for the environment. It depends on the type of bag that's being used as an alternative. Over time, we'd like to move to compostable bags. There's still a bit of work to do to refine those bags to make sure that they're better for the environment, and also that we've got the facilities so that we can compost those appropriately.
Yeah, because you need specialty facilities for them, so that would need to happen. So 20 or 30 times, I mean, who's measuring whether the average bag's getting that long? Sometimes you get a tear in one, you might have people going, I'll just use it as a bin bag. Can you say categorically, or do you have an average for how often they're used?
No, we don't, and we'd like to have better data, and certainly as part of the work that we've been doing reviewing that ban, data is going to be a big part of what we need to do to improve the ban. Over time, we need to look at the heavier plastic bags and move to better alternatives, compostable bags, for example.
Right.
But at the moment, we don't have those facilities in place.
So does that make it a bit harder to say that this is a success if you don't know if people are getting to the 20 use, you know, the better environmental ledger mark?
Well, we've seen people use alternatives to plastic bags, not just the heavier plastic bags that are on offer at the big supermarket chains, but also just normal bags that they bring, cotton or otherwise. Cotton bags do use a lot of water though, so we have to be mindful of all the
There's all these different
environmental
sums. You say there's water, there's waste, there's oil being used and so on. All right, so as for this ban, so someone is at the supermarket and decides, let's go have a little picnic, maybe a bit of roast chicken, lettuce, whatever you like. What sort of cutlery would they buy?
There's already good alternatives to plastic cutlery on the supermarket shelves at the moment, things like bamboo cutlery. Of course, people could bring their own cutlery, metal cutlery, wash and reuse
you're not going
those
to do that
items.
at the supermarket at that stage. So they'd buy bamboo or wood, would they?
That's right, and those items are already on the supermarket shelves. We'll need to work with businesses during the transition through our Plastic Busters program to make sure that they're aware of what alternatives they can substitute.
And explain why the bamboo is better. It's the production. What happens to it at the end?
Because it's made out of
landfill, doesn't it?
Yeah, plant-based materials generally break down much better. They can do so without the need to have a massive industrial composting facility, perhaps even in the household compost. So much better for the environment, and hopefully will reduce the amount of plastic in our environment, our landscapes, waterways and oceans.
You did bring in your props. So this is the polystyrene would go. There'd be no polystyrene anywhere, full stop?
So at the moment we're focusing on the expanded polystyrene foam takeaway containers and cups. They'd be banned immediately when the legislation is passed next year by the ACT Parliament. In addition, also the plastic cutlery and plastic stirrers. 12 months after that, we'll go further.
And these straws are the next one. So that's in 12 months, except for people with a disability that need them. So how does that work? How do they source them? Where do they buy them from?
People with a disability have told us that there aren't good alternatives to plastic straws. We're still going to ban them, and there's been huge community support for that in the ACT. We know that they are a problematic plastic, and there are some alternatives, whether it's cardboard, paper straws, whether it's bamboo straws, metal straws,
but as
that are
you said,
available.
not for everyone. So what happens for someone with a disability that needs a plastic straw in a year's time?
We want to work with people with a disability and their advocates to make sure the ban works for them and the exemptions that will be provided, and make sure that it also works for the environment as well. So we'll be doing that over the 12 months of the transition.
So you haven't come up with a plan yet on that?
Some of the ideas that have been put to us include selling packets of straws at pharmacies, for example, and cafes and restaurants providing straws, but under the counter, so they're not as easily accessible to the broader community.
You show a card saying you've got a right to a plastic straw?
We want to remain the most inclusive city in Australia, so we don't want to have to provide that level of medical
So that'll be an
evidence.
honour system?
Yeah, I think so. It's something that I think could work and reduce the number of straws in circulation.
But you wouldn't be able to buy a 500 pack at the supermarket?
No, and I think that's something that's really important. There are better alternatives available, and we want to encourage the broader community to use that, but also make sure that these are available in an easy location.
Swap and go coffee cups. So you're rolling this out as a trial to possibly ban coffee cups as well. Again, how does that get measured? How many times do you need to use one of them to be on the plus side of the environmental ledger?
Different studies are different. One study shows 20 times. So the coffee cups that we're rolling out as part of this Swap and Go trial in a partnership with Green Caffeine are made out of recyclable hard plastic. So if they're used around 20 times, you'll get the benefit. We're not banning at this point in time single-use plastic-lined coffee cups. We're waiting to see how businesses react to the trial. Potentially in the future as well. We're not the only jurisdiction acting in this area. South Australia, a Liberal government there, is also been consulting on draft legislation to do similar things. Queensland will move next year, and WA is also consulting.
So what would that depend on? If the business said it was practical or otherwise, or if consumers have to do it enough times, they've got to reuse the coffee cup enough times, obviously, or there's no point in doing it?
We want to make it as easy as possible for people to use a better alternative. And what we've found thus far as the trials rolled out over the last few weeks is that people are really adapting quite well. They simply have to download the app. It's free for the consumer and it's free for business.
If you're a visitor, though, it might seem a bit weird. You get to Canberra, you've got to get an app and then presumably pay more for the initial coffee with your cup?
No, it's totally free, and it enables them to return the coffee on the spot or at another cafe in another city in another state.
Where else is it rolling out there?
It's rolling out across the country. Wollongong's been a particularly big city with the take-up of that, and we're hoping our Canberra coffee cups, which are branded, will find their way into other parts promoting our city.
All right, well, look, there's a lot there. We'll see how we might chat with you down the track and see how the various trials go and so on. But Chris Steele, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.